Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 1. Dhritarashtra said, Tell me, O Sanjaya, assembled on Kurukshetra, the center of religious activity, desirous to fight, what indeed did my people and the Pandavas do? Sanjaya said, But then King Duryodhana, having seen the Pandava forces in battle array, approached his teacher Drona and spoke these words. Behold, O teacher, this mighty army of the sons of Pandu, arrayed by the son of Drupada, thy gifted pupil. Here are heroes, mighty archers, the equals in battle of Bhima and Arjuna, the great warriors, Yuyudhana, Virata, Drupada, the valiant Drishtaketu, Chekitana, and the king of Kashi, the best of men Purujit, Kuntiboja, and Shaivya, the powerful Yudamanyu, and the brave Uttamajas, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi, lords of great chariots. Hear also, O best of the twice born, the names of those who are distinguished amongst ourselves, the leaders of my army. These I relate to you for your information. Yourself and Bhishma and Karna and Kripa, the victorious in war, Ashvatthama and Vikarna, and Jayadratha, the son of Somodatta, and many other heroes also well skilled in fight and armed with many kinds of weapons, are here, determined to lay down their lives for my sake. This our army defended by Bhishma is impossible to be counted, but that army of theirs defended by Bhima is easy to number. Now do, being stationed in your proper places in the divisions of the army, support Bhishma alone. That powerful oldest of the Kurus, Bhishma the grandsire, in order to cheer Duryodhana, now sounded aloud a lion roar and blew his conch. Then following Bhishma, conches and kettle drums, tabors, trumpets and cow horns blared forth suddenly from the Kaurava side, and the noise was tremendous. Then also Madhava and Pandava, stationed in their magnificent chariot yoked with white horses, blew their divine conches with a furious noise. Hrishtakesha blew the Panchajanya, Dhananjaya the Devadatta, and Vrikodara the doer of terrific deeds, his large conch Pundra. King Yudhishthira, son of Kunti, blew the conch named Anantavijaya, and Nakula and Sahadeva their Sugosha and Manipushpaka. The expert bowman, king of Kashi, and the great warrior Shikandi, Dristadayamna, and Virata, and the unconquered Satyaki. O Lord of earth, Drupada, and the sons of Draupadi, and the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all also blew each his own conch. And the terrific noise resounding throughout heaven and earth rent the hearts of Dhritarashtra's party. Then, O Lord of earth, seeing Dhritarashtra's party standing marshalled, and the shooting about to begin, that Pandava whose ensign was the monkey, raising his bow, said the following words to Krishna. Arjuna said, Place my chariot, O Achyota, between the two armies, that I may see those who stand here prepared for war. On this eve of battle, let me know with whom I have to fight. For I desire to observe those who are assembled here for fight, wishing to please the evil-minded Duryodhana by taking his side on this battlefield. Sanjaya said, Commanded thus by Gurukesha, Hrishikesha, O Bharata, drove that grandest of chariots to a place between the two hosts, facing Bhishma, Drona, and all the rulers of the earth, and then spoke thus. Behold, O Partha, all the Kurus gathered together. Then saw Partha stationed there in both the armies, grandfathers, fathers-in-law, and uncles, brothers and cousins, his own and their sons and grandsons, and comrades, teachers, and other friends as well. Then he, the son of Kunti, seeing all those kinsmen stationed in their ranks, spoke thus sorrowfully, filled with deep compassion. Arjuna said, seeing, O Krishna, these my kinsmen gathered. Here, eager for fight, my limbs fail me, and my mouth is parched up. I shiver all over, and my hair stands on end. The bow Gandiva slips from my hand, and my skin burns. Neither, O Keshava, can I stand upright. My mind is in a whirl, and I see adverse omens. Neither, O Krishna, do I see any good in killing those, my own people, in battle. I desire neither victory nor empire, nor yet pleasure. Of what avail is dominion to us? Of what avail are pleasures and even life, if these, O Govinda, for whose sake it is desired that empire, enjoyment, and pleasure should be ours, themselves stand here in battle, having renounced life and wealth? Teachers, uncles, sons, and also grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, besides other kinsmen. Even though these were to kill me, O slayer of Madhu, I could not wish to kill them, not even for the sake of dominion over the 3 worlds. How much less for the sake of the earth? What pleasure indeed could be ours, O Janardana, from killing these sons of Dhritarashtra? Sin only could take hold of us by the slaying of these felons. Therefore ought we not to kill our kindred, the sons of Dhritarashtra, for how could we, O Madhava, gain happiness by the slaying of our own kinsmen? Though these, with understanding overpowered by greed, see no evil due to decay of families, and no sin in hostility to friends, why should we, O Janardana, who see clearly the evil due to the decay of families, not turn away from this sin? On the decay of a family, the immemorial religious rites of that family die out. On the destruction of spirituality, impiety further overwhelms the whole of the family. On the prevalence of impiety, O Krishna, the women of the family become corrupt, and women being corrupted, there arises, O Varshneya, intermingling of castes. Admixture of castes, indeed, is for the hell of the family and the destroyers of the family. Their ancestors fall deprived of the offerings of rice ball and water. By these misdeeds of the destroyers of the family, bringing about confusion of castes, are the immemorial religious rites of the caste and the family destroyed. We have heard, O Janardana, that inevitable is the dwelling in hell of those men in whose families religious practices have been destroyed. Also we are involved in a great sin, in that we are prepared to slay our kinsmen from greed of the pleasures of a kingdom. Verily, if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to slay me unresisting and unarmed in the battle, that would be better for me. Sanjaya said, speaking thus in the midst of the battlefield, Arjuna, casting away his bow and arrows, sank down on the seat of his chariot, with his mind distressed with sorrow. The end of chapter 1st designated the grief of Arjuna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. Sanjaya said, to him who was thus overwhelmed with pity and sorrowing, and whose eyes were dimmed with tears, Madhusudana spoke these words. The blessed Lord said, in such a crisis whence comes upon thee, O Arjuna, this dejection, un-Aryan-like, disgraceful and contrary to the attainment of heaven? Yield not to unmanliness, O son of Pritha. Ill doth it become thee. Cast off this mean faint-heartedness, and arise, O scorcher of thine enemies. Arjuna said, but how can I in battle, O slayer of Madhu, fight with arrows against Bhishma and Drona, who are rather worthy to be worshipped, O destroyer of foes? Surely it would be better even to eat the bread of beggary in this life than to slay these great-souled masters. But if I kill them, even in this world, all my enjoyment of wealth and desires will be stained with blood. And indeed I can scarcely tell which will be better, that we should conquer them or that they should conquer us. The very sons of Dhritarashtra, after slaying whom we should not care to live, stand facing us. With my nature overpowered by weak commiseration, with a mind in confusion about duty, I supplicate thee, Say decidedly, what is good for me? I am thy disciple. Instruct me who have taken refuge in thee. I do not see anything to remove this sorrow which blasts my senses, even were I to obtain unrivaled and flourishing dominion over the earth and mastery over the gods. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus to the lord of the senses, Gurukesha, the scorcher of foes, said to Govinda, I shall not fight, and became silent. To him who was sorrowing in the midst of the two armies, Rishikesha, as if smiling, O descendant of Bharata, spoke these words. The blessed Lord said, Thou hast been mourning for them who should not be mourned for, yet thou speakest words of wisdom. The truly wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. It is not that I have never existed, nor thou, nor these kings, nor is it that we shall cease to exist in the future. As our childhood, youth, and old age in this body to the embodied soul, so also is the attaining of another body. Calm souls are not deluded thereat. Notions of heat and cold, of pain and pleasure are born, O son of Kunti, only of the contact of the senses with their objects. They have a beginning and an end. They are impermanent in their nature. Bear them patiently, O descendant of Bharata. That calm man, who is the same in pain and pleasure, whom these cannot disturb, alone is able, O great amongst men, to attain to immortality. The unreal never is, the real never is not. Men possessed of the knowledge of the truth fully know both these. That by which all this is pervaded, that know for certain to be indestructible. None has the power to destroy this immutable. Of this indwelling self, the ever-changeless, the indestructible, the illimitable, these bodies are said to have an end. Fight therefore, O descendant of Bharata. He who takes the self to be the slayer, he who takes it to be the slain, neither of these knows. It does not slay, nor is it slain. This in never born, nor does it die. It is not that, not having been it again, comes into being. Or according to another view, it is not that having been it again ceases to be. This is unborn, eternal, changeless, ever itself. It is not killed when the body is killed. He that knows this to be indestructible, changeless, without birth, and immutable, how is he, O son of Pritha, to slay or cause another to slay? Even as a man casts off worn-out clothes and puts on others which are new, so the embodied casts off worn-out bodies and enters into others which are new. This self weapons cut not, this fire burns not, this water wets not, and this wind dries not. This self cannot be cut, nor burnt, nor wetted, nor dried. Changeless, all-pervading, unmoving, immovable, the self is eternal. This self is said to be unmanifested, unthinkable, and unchangeable. Therefore, knowing this to be such, thou oughtest not to mourn. But if thou shouldst take this to have constant birth and death, even in that case, O mighty armed, thou oughtest not to mourn for this. Of that which is born, death is certain. Of that which is dead, birth is certain. Over the unavoidable, therefore, thou oughtest not to grieve. All beings are unmanifested in their beginning, O Bharata, manifested in their middle state, and unmanifested again in their end. What is there to grieve about? Some look upon the self as marvelous, others speak of it as wonderful, others again hear of it as a wonder, and still others, though hearing, do not understand it at all. This, the indweller in the bodies of all, is ever indestructible, O descendant of Bharata. Wherefore thou oughtst not to mourn for any creature. Looking at thine own Dharma, also thou oughtest not to waver, for there is nothing higher for a Kshatriya than a righteous war. Fortunate certainly are the Kshatriyas, O son of Pritha, who are called to fight in such a battle that comes unsought as an open gate to heaven. But if thou refusest to engage in this righteous warfare, then, forfeiting thy own dharma and honor, thou shalt incur sin. The world also will ever hold thee in reprobation. To the honored, disrepute is surely worse than death. The great chariot warriors will believe that thou hast withdrawn from the battle through fear, and thou wilt be lightly esteemed by them who have thought much of thee. Thine enemies also, cavilling at thy great prowess, will say of thee things that are not to be uttered. What could be more intolerable than this? Dying thou gainest heaven, conquering thou enjoyest the earth. Therefore, O son of Kunti, arise resolved to fight. Having made pain and pleasure, gain and loss, conquest and defeat the same, engage thou then in battle. So shalt thou incur no sin. The wisdom of self-realization has been declared unto thee. Hearken thou now to the wisdom of yoga, endued with which, O son of Pritha, thou shalt break through the bonds of karma. In this there is no waste of the unfinished attempt, nor is there production of contrary results. Even very little of this jhana protects from the great terror. In this, O scion of Kuru, there is but a single one-pointed determination. The purposes of the undecided are innumerable and many-branching. O Partha, no set determination is formed in the minds of those that are deeply attached to pleasure and power, and whose discrimination is stolen away by the flowery words of the unwise, who are full of desires and look upon heaven as their highest goal, and who, taking pleasure in the panegyric words of the Vedas, declare that there is nothing else. Their flowery words are exuberant with various specific rites as the means to pleasure and power, and are the causes of new births as the result of their works performed with desire. The Vedas deal with the three gunas. Be thou free, O Arjuna, from the triad of the gunas, free from the pairs of opposites, ever balanced, free from the thought of getting and keeping, and established in the self. To the Brahmana who has known the self, all the Vedas are of so much use as a reservoir is, when there is a flood everywhere. Thy right is to work only, but never to the fruits thereof. Be thou not the producer of the fruits of thy actions, neither let thy attachment be towards inaction. Being steadfast in yoga, Dhananjaya, perform actions, abandoning attachment, remaining unconcerned as regards success and failure. This evenness of mind in regard to success and failure is known as yoga. Work with desire is verily far inferior to that performed with the mind undisturbed by thoughts of results. O Dhananjaya, seek refuge in this evenness of mind. Wretched are they who act for results. Endued with this evenness of mind, one frees oneself in this life, alike from vice and virtue. Devote thyself therefore to this yoga. Yoga is the very dexterity of work. The wise, possessed of this evenness of mind, abandoning the fruits of their actions, freed for ever from the fetters of birth, go to that state which is beyond good and evil. When thy intellect crosses beyond the taint of illusion, then shalt thou attain to indifference regarding things heard and things yet to be heard. When thy intellect, tossed about by the conflict of opinions, has become immovable and firmly established in the self, then thou shalt attain self-realization. Arjuna said, "What, O Keshava, is the description of the man of steady wisdom, merged in samadhi? How, on the other hand, does the man of steady wisdom speak, how sit, how walk?" The blessed Lord said, "When a man completely casts away, O Partha, all the desires of the mind, satisfied in the self alone, by the self, then is he said to be one of steady wisdom. He whose mind is not shaken by adversity, who does not hanker after happiness, who has become free from affection, fear, and wrath, is indeed the Muni of steady wisdom. He who is everywhere unattached, not pleased at receiving good, nor vexed at evil, his wisdom is fixed. When also, like the tortoise its limbs, he can completely withdraw the senses from their objects, then his wisdom becomes steady. Objects fall away from the abstinent man, leaving the longing behind, but his longing also ceases, who sees the Supreme. The turbulent senses, O son of Kunti, do violently snatch away the mind of even a wise man, striving after perfection. The steadfast, having controlled them all, sits focused on me as the Supreme. His wisdom is steady, whose senses are under control. Thinking of objects, attachment to them is formed in a man. From attachment longing, and from longing anger grows. From anger comes delusion, and from delusion loss of memory. From loss of memory comes the ruin of discrimination, and from the ruin of discrimination he perishes. But the self-controlled man, moving among objects with senses under restraint, and free from attraction and aversion, attains to tranquility. In tranquility all sorrow is destroyed, for the intellect of him who is tranquil-minded is soon established in firmness. No knowledge of the self has the unstudied, nor has he meditation. To the unmeditative there is no peace, and how can one without peace have happiness? For the mind which follows in the wake of the wandering senses carries away his discrimination as a wind carries away from its course a boat on the waters. Therefore, O mighty armed, his knowledge is steady, whose senses are completely restrained from their objects. That which is night to all beings, in that the self-controlled man wakes. That in which all beings wake is night to the self-seeing Muni. As into the ocean, brimful and still, flow the waters, even so the Muni, into whom enter all desires. He, and not the desirer of desires, attains to peace. That man who lives devoid of longing, abandoning all desires, without the sense of I and mine, he attains to peace. This is to have one's being in Brahman, O son of Pritha. None attaining to this becomes deluded. After being established therein, even at the end of life, a man attains to oneness with Brahman. The end of 2nd chapter designated the way of knowledge.